If you give a mom a video camera and a stack of books, she will easily be distracted. Well, I'm back with part 2, and there's probably going to be a part 3. Okay, so these books are just kind of a little bit more in depth, if you will, and they really, as I was pulling these out and thinking, oh, a lot of these I don't really read in one sitting, I was like, you know what, that was kind of how we did a progression of read alouds. We started with, I started sharing with you part 1 of all like the board books and the really beginner picture book favorites. These are picture books and they are just as fabulous as those, or those are just as fabulous as these. This wasn't something I had planned on filming about, or it just was one of those things that dawned on me as I was pulling these out, that this was like a progression into read alouds, chapter books, just for the kids, because there was more information in these picture books. I wouldn't make the kids sit down for 15-20 minutes while I read these. We would just read little bits at a time, maybe 5-10 minutes, and it would go over the course of a few days. Again, it wasn't something I had planned on doing. I just realized I was doing it when I was making these videos, so go me. So these are, again, this is a continuation of that first video, and in that first video I talked about how Julie Kreke over on her channel and Chantal from Unintentional Homeschooling did these videos, and I really enjoyed them, and I wanted to share mine because all things books. So we're just going to go forward. These are more picture books with more words, and the first one I'm going to show you is Locomotive. This is a big book. It's really big that sometimes I think it's just a little bit intimidating for children, but the whole train and how this train works, this is actually has quickly became my 3-year-old favorite thing. And so there is a lot of information here, but again, this it also just depends on how much you want to share. So here is a lot of information that honestly, it's more my husband and I reading, but at some point, like, the kids are going to read it and they're going to enjoy it. But we have something very simple. It began very simple at first. And then here's a road made for crossing the country. New road made of rails for people to ride. And then we have a little bit more with some big words. And again, a beautiful story with how it was working. And we looked at details. And so again, this took about a 1 week, 5 days to finish this book, and it's just the progression of the railroad and how it was built and all that went into the story. And sometimes you have pages that have more details on them. So again, 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old, he'll be 4 in like a month, about a month, so take that. But also with these are books that are easily found my 9 and 10-year-old reading, because the information in there is good. So again, picture books aren't just for the young, they're for the young and old alike. And these, again, as I addressed in the first video, these are books that I ended up keeping after massive purging, because these are the ones that my kids gravitate towards and like to read. This one should actually have been in that first video. But it was in this basket. This basket is the one that stays out in the living room that we can pick up and read at any time. This one is a Little Red Caboose, and it is your classic. And it's just about the little last caboose of a train. Obviously, we have some kind of theme going here with trains. And it travels the countryside. It looks at different animals, different train cars, and different places and cities. And it's about this little caboose, wishes he was something else. But at the end of the story, okay, mom crisis averted, not sure where I was. This is becoming a prevailing theme in my videos. Anyway, we get to the end of the Little Red Caboose, and at the end, all the children wave to Little Red Caboose because he saved the train. And everybody is happy with how important this Little Red Caboose is. The next thing we have in here is actually one that should not be in here. However, I will make mention of this author because it's an amazing author. Let's see if we can try it. There we go. Margaret D'Angeli. Anything by her, highly recommend. Okay. So in this basket, I'll try to show you what it looks like. It's heavy because it's more picture books, and oh, I think we do have a locker in here. After all my talk about Thomas Locker, we do have one. But the next one I'm going to share with you is James Dougherty, Andy and the Lion. This one, the Caldecott. It is simple in terms of words. Like, there is not a whole lot of words in here. So don't assume that because it's however many pages, look, it feels like a 30-page book, that but it also is set up in different parts. And it is just Andy told in, like, there's the font, which is really helpful, I think, for dyslexic kids. I think that's what I remember reading at one point. But it's Andy, secondhand lions. That's kind of usually what I put it with. Let's see, we also have The Town Mouse and the Country Mouse read with Usborne. Again, another one that we really enjoy. Looks like I've got some of our readers in here, which is more for my daughter's age. So I'll just show these with you because they're very simple in terms of, are you okay? Mm-hmm. In terms of content, I would say this is probably good up until the age of 8 for reading on their own. However, I have caught my 11 and 12-year-old reading these. But this is The Copper Lady. This is about how our Statue of Liberty got here. This is like a level 4 or 5 book.
I need scissors.
So this must be in here because I really don't have bookshelves right now, and so it's hard to put things out for the little ones to read when they don't have anything to read, because I make them read every day. I'm like, here, you got 20 minutes. Set the timer, go grab something. Dinosaur Hunter. I actually have been known to read this to my 3-year-old. But it's just about these Western people that end up going on a dinosaur hunt. And we have a Trisaurus. So there's that. Clouds of Terror. This is about the grasshoppers of 1870s. Think Little House on the Prairie. But so you just get it through the eyes of 2 kids and kind of how the family recovered after that. This one is grades 2 to 4. This is Small Wolf. This is about Native American. Just different different aspects of their life. And then this is one that will forever be a favorite of my children's. This is George the Drummer Boy, and it's about a drummer boy that I think is in Bunker Hill. Or it's just one of the Revolutionary battles and kind of how he dealt with it as a drummer boy when everybody's got a gun everywhere. This one is Lentil by Robert McCloskey. And this still has your simple words, or your simple sentences. A little bit more words the further it goes along. But this is a fun story about a little boy in his harmonica, and a little grouchy old man. And just reminds me a lot of my boys. So that one's really fun. This one really shouldn't be in here either. This is one that gets read a lot by my older boys. It's about a boy and his first gun and how he ends up being the man with this gun. Really fun. Here is one that my 3 and 4-year-old, 3 almost 4-year-old. Here's one that my youngest son really enjoys. St. George and the Dragon. Knew he was going to perk up when I said that out loud. But it has a quest about this knight that goes after a dragon. It is, I think, retold from Spencer's Fairy Queen. I think. Oh, yeah, well, it says it right there. Yep, it's told from Spencer's Fairy Queen, which I had to read in high school. Much prefer this one. Spencer's Fairy Queen was not my favorite. Anyway, I know we were supposed to appreciate. I am not. John, don't cut things. I know we're supposed to appreciate that kind of thing. I just don't. Anyway, Paul Revere's Ride. Listen, my children, and you shall hear the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere with beautiful illustrations. And this one is easily read in a day or read in one sitting. This one probably is a little bit longer, but it has a rhyme that doesn't make it feel as long. And it's Paul Revere's Ride. Enough said about this one. This one is, again, Charlie, let's not do that. This one, again, is been loved by all. I've had it, I think, since my oldest one. Jen Karen wrote the Father Tim series. That is very popular, and we had found this one, which is Miss Fanny's Hat. And this is about a little old lady. I'll know this one so well, so you're like, oh, that one definitely is read a lot by me to the kids. But this is about a little old lady and her daughter that lives with her, and I really liked that dynamic of the daughter taking care of her mama. And Miss Fanny has a ton of hats. She loves to wear hats. And at one point, the church needs a fundraiser, so Miss Fanny chooses her favorite hat, which is the hat she wears every Easter, and ends up raising the most money for this church. Such a sweet story. Again, one that all my kids love because Miss Fanny gave up her best, and it paid off in the end, if that makes sense. We also have another Johnny Appleseed because Bill Moses, and this one is definitely more detailed about Johnny Appleseed, but if we're running out of time, we tend to pick up the other simple one. But this has very beautiful illustrations and is more in depth of Johnny Appleseed. I have an atlas book in here because sometimes we just like to look at atlases. Remember what I said about Thomas Locker being my favorite? I did remember keeping this one, and I do pick it up and just I'll read through it, and then kids will come sit down, and then I will read it to him. Again, his paintings are just out of this world, and it is about this family on a farm, and it's just their whole year of this on an American farm. And you just get, you know, some of the hardships they're facing with our industrial age and how these small farms are kind of having a difficult go of it and what they can do to save the farm. And it's one of my favorites. And we're back to Robert McCloskey, which is One Morning in Maine. One of the children that I have, one of my children, pointed out that Robert McCloskey must really love the name Sal because Sal is our main character in this one, and it's about her who loses her tooth and kind of explores islands of Maine, and then yeah, you just get a little glimpse of what it's like to be on the shores of Maine, and it's really sweet. We also have another Robert McCloskey that's read a lot, and that's Blueberries for Sal, and it is about Sal and her mother going on Blueberry Hill, and then about Bear and Little Bear also on Blueberry Hill, and how they store it for the winter in two different perspectives. Really fun. Also in here I have First Poems of Childhood, illustrated by another favorite illustrator, Tasha Tudor. This one actually has a lot of poems that we've been trying to memorize in here, and so sometimes I think the kids just like to look at the illustrations. I also love this book. I would love to own the whole series, but it's Thy Friend Obadiah, and it's about a Quaker boy. I guess, simply put, it's about the lives of Quaker through the eyes of Obadiah and this little boy that just kind of roams the streets and goes through everything. And yeah, I think it's one that I actually need to pick up and read to my kids again. So here I am saying I don't keep any books that my kids don't enjoy. Well, obviously I do, because I just found two that I kept because I like. Anyway, let's get on to Maybelline, which is about a cable car, and it is also written by Virginia Lee Burton, who did Katie the Snowplow, Little House, and all of that. And this one's just about the cable car. Oh my gosh, this basket's getting really heavy. Okay. This just says to John. But it's basically this cable car and her route along San Francisco, and in the true Virginia way, you kind of have some of the things that, some of the obstacles she gets through and some of the triumphs she overcomes or struggles she overcomes or whatever it is. Just the highs and lows of being the cable car. And so you get a little history of this in San Francisco during the time of Maybelline. Okay, this would not be complete without Drummer Hoff, who fired it off. Corporal Farrell brought the barrel, but Drummer Hoff fired it off. And through that, you just get this whole story with bright illustrations about Drummer Hoff, who fired it off, and all the components that it takes to fire a cannon. And it's just a rhyming one that children really enjoy. Childhood favorite also have to do with farm and that kind of lifestyle. Honestly, the Ox Cart Man would be like my life goal. Self-sustainability at its finest. Ox Cart Man is about this man who goes and basically sells everything that's in the cart, and what's in the cart is everything that has been brought together by the family for the whole year. So you have the sheep that were shorn in April, you have the shawls that were made from the wool from the sheep, you have bees, bee honey that was collected from the bees that pollinated from the trees that bloomed in spring. So you have like how the whole seasons bring together this beautiful story. And then at the end, I think what really just always came back to me is how simply they lived. He sells everything and then he just gets peppermint candy for everybody, but he also invests in their future as entrepreneurs, so to speak, in the old sense. And he buys his daughter a brand new needle so she can do embroidery, and a carving knife for his son to carve more, and a tea kettle for his wife to make delicious meals. And I just loved the simplicity of this as a child, and I love it even more as an adult. And again, that one's read pretty often. Chantal talked about If You Give a Pig a Pancake. I think at one point we had that one, and it was... Do we still have If You Give a Pig a Pancake? We have that one? Do you know where it is? No, I don't know where it is.
No, we don't.
Okay, but we have If You Give a Moose a Muffin, or we did. That one's actually my favorite. If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. If You Give a Cat a Cupcake is this one, and I know my daughter has one, so you'll see that in that video. But this one's If You Give a Cat a Cupcake. And it's basically what happens to mothers. These books are preparing you for parenthood. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk to go with it. And he gets distracted by something else, and he gets distracted by something else, and then it comes back to giving the mouse a cookie, and you get it through the eyes of Cat and a Cupcake, and it prepares him for adulthood. Because if you go to make dinner, you're going to see laundry on the way. And when you see the laundry, you realize that you need to go order your husband new socks. And on the way to ordering your husband new socks, you're going to remember a text that you have to reply. It's preparing them for motherhood. Or parenthood. This book, oh my goodness. You want an inspiration book for your children that's still fun and lighthearted, this is the way to go. This one is by Ellis Creedle. I will leave my favorites linked down below. This book is about these two siblings that want a pair of shoes. And so they're poor on the mountain, and it's like, well, what do we do to get these pair of shoes? And they are given turnip seeds, and they can plant turnips, and they can grow turnips, and they will sell these turnips to pay for the shoes. But on their way to sell the turnips to pay for the shoes, they meet people that have a need for turnips. I say need. There really wasn't a need, but their heart, the children's heart was giving. And they gave all but one, and then we'll have to see if that one turnip can get them the pair of shoes they so desperately want, that will squeak and dance and make musical. And that's what this book is. Let me show you some of the illustrations of this because they are simple. And here's like the word count. But this is definitely one that works more like a a chapter book. We just read a little bit at a time. There's a few books left in here, but there's also some of these bigger ones that I can't fit on my shelf. So I'm just going to briefly hold those up just because, oh, this should not be in there. That should not be in there.
They are ones that should just be briefly. Sorry, I'm getting distracted.
If you give a mom a video camera and a stack of books, she will easily be distracted. Okay, these are books, or the bigger books are ones that I can't fit on my shelf, but they fit in this basket. They're ones that are more like reference type things, so it's easy for me to say, go get this reference book to the older ones, so on and so forth. This one is The Creeper by Teresa Posey Carey. This is definitely a Christian book, and it is the creeper, and you're trying to figure out who this creeper is. But he loses things from time to time, and he keeps seeing pieces in this journey that is pointing him to what God is wanting him to see. And so there's a message in finding everything, and at the end you see the message. And before you think, well, this might be too spiritual, like, the message is cheese. So it's light. It is not deep. I think my mom got this for me at a authors conference, and this is a favorite. The kids read this one all the time and ask for it all the time. I think there's that little creepiness that's not too creepy. Boys tend to want that kind of thing. But then it has just a sweet little message that they all try to figure out every single time. Wow, look at this. Another Robert McCloskey. This one's Make Way for Ducklings. And it's about a mother taking care of her ducklings through Central Park, through other places. They travel, they've got a policeman watching out for them, and I'm going the wrong way. We just have this little family and what it takes to protect their young and what they need to do, and it's really sweet in the Robert McCloskey type of way. Okay, the reference books that I have here that I'll just briefly show, because honestly these aren't ones that we read a lot, but they are in the basket, so we'll just talk quickly about them, and they're all Usborne. So we have the World of Shakespeare. Again, this is more like for my older ones. It's more of a reference book. We have the classical music reference book, and this has one of those things that you scan on your phone. What are these called? Internet linked things that you can scan and listen to it and do that. And the kids really like that. I think it's more so that they can use the phone, but whatever. And then we have famous composers. So you have classical music and composers, and they really enjoyed that. This is again one that I really like. This is Carl's Christmas by Alexandra Day. This is the one that my kids really enjoy, but I really liked Carl because it is basically a story without words, and you, the reader, get to tell the story. And I just like Carl. I love Good Dog Carl, and it's so sweet. Can't really tell you much about it because, well, it's told through pictures, and Carl, and Christmas, and taking care of the little baby, and running into Santa Claus, and things like that, but you kind of tell the story. So really sweet. And then I don't think you would have a read aloud shelf. You wouldn't have children's books if you didn't have Patricia Polacco. I can never say it, and I know I'm saying it wrong because I've heard people, but once something's stuck in your head, like, it's just stuck there. And these are ones that I've thought of a couple times to get rid of, and I have a huge outburst of no, because they are so readily available at our library. But the kids do not want to get rid of them, which is why they stay here. And I have Fiona's Lace. And this is a story of an immigrant family, an Irish immigrant family, and how this lace plays a part in bringing people home. Not necessarily home to Ireland. So there's that for you. And this is Tucky Joe at Heart. And this is so sweet. This is like the Vietnam War. And the little children and the soldiers. It's a heartstring tug, and I think this is why this is so enjoyable to the children. And then the last one I have here is actually one that is a book that I won from another channel on here. She likes to share a lot of things that they're doing in her school, a lot of she tends to be more book centered. So if you like things like that, I will leave her link down below, but she is Mama's Little Lambs. And I won this as a giveaway that she did. These are the Shine-A-Light ones from Usborne. Again, when we were moving, I sold a lot of those, but this one was the construction site, which was my 3-year-old's favorite. And why I like these is that you have a picture here, but if you shine a flashlight through the back, you kind of see the blueprint of it, and you can kind of see it there, but on the back it shows more what type of thing. The only thing I wish that they would do with these is, you know, those like indestructible pages. I think this would work really well for indestructible pages, because when the kids are trying to shine the light through, they can easily be ripped. But you just have like this whole construction site, so you know you have a little one peeking through, but if you shine a light through, you can see the whole component of the vehicles. But you go through it. Just different. Here is a iron worker. Can you see what he's working on? He's working on this, or how he's working. Anyway, this is just one, again, with construction. My 3-year-old loves and enjoys. Another book that we have in this basket is Yanni Wondernose by, Margaret D'Angeli. This one is about a inquisitive Amish boy that gets distracted because he's always curious about stuff. And if he remains alert and steadfast, for lack of a better word, I'm trying to think of the right word that I want and I can't think of it. Basically, if he shows himself responsible, his father will have a surprise for him at the end. So that's what the story is about. Will this boy remain responsible? A little bit more words, typical for Margaret D'Angeli. One of those that are really good to read over time. So, joys, and that is what is in this basket. And I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, stay tuned. Part 3 is coming out. Thank you so much for watching.